So tell me about railroad issues.
Well, if you read last Sunday's newspaper, I was the only one that mentioned it when they were talking about the question of transportation and the flow of traffic within the borough. I mean, if you look at all the major railroad crossings that we have on our main thoroughfares, or just North Pole alone, I think that that many in such a small area is a major safety hazard. Not only does it restrict the flow of traffic and everything else, but it is a danger to our community in reference to just having that many crossings. I've never met a vehicle yet that won in a collision with a train. I do understand that there are some organizations that are currently working on a whole new rerouting. From what I understood, there was actually going to be some federal funding to assist the railroad in rerouting that train system, and they were actually talking about when they redo the train system that it would actually be with the newer technology to allow the silencing of the tracks, so there would be making less noise near the areas of communities and residential houses. What happened to that? I haven't heard anything since. I've actually asked a few people in reference to what was ever to come about in reference to the rerouting of the train system going around Fairbanks, and also understood that the reason the federal government was going to fund it was to help for quick transit and quick response to the Delta Fort Greely site by the military at Fort Wainwright. To me, if that's a national security issue, I don't understand why the federal government is not pushing the issue to ensure that this, and if they're going to be paying for it, why not have it rerouted so that way it increases the safety factor and helps us out with our traffic flow here locally in our borough, at the same time helping out national security by having the quick, rapid response for the Greeley-Fort Wainwright connection.
And what's your opinion on the Alaska-Canada Railroad connection that's been talked about for many years? And in reference to that, also to use natural gas to electrify the railroad, either our existing Alaska Railroad or this Canada Link. And the Canada Link, to bring it to Alaska's airports, to bring freight and stuff through Alaska, to make us the center point of the world.
Well, and like I said when we were asked earlier here in reference to what do we see as the future of our borough? And I really do see the future of our borough as becoming a central location in reference to the state of Alaska, and I do believe the state of Alaska can be the strongest state in the union.
I'll go get my bag.
With the natural gas pipeline and everything going to be funneled down to the Fairbanks area to be refined locally, to turn into a liquid form, I believe the rail system would be very beneficial, especially for being able to use the train system to transport that down through Canada or down along the Alcan into the lower 48, central United States area. I'm sorry, man. And I do
or at least facilitate the building of a natural gas line to having a railroad there.
Yeah, either way. It can be transported either way. I don't know which would be more efficient and more safe. I believe if we tanked it.
But one point I want to make is to use the natural gas to electrify the railroad. And instead of just selling the gas, to use some of the gas at least.
So in other words, you're taking a small percentage of what's being funneled through that to pay for the railroad system itself.
Right, and if the railroad was that efficient, then we could move goods from America to Alaska's airports and then the rest of the world.
Well, I've been looking some of the rail systems, and I know that they're passenger rail systems in other countries that have tremendous speed, and they're actually very, very safe. I don't know how that would be here due to our permafrost and our environmental differences with those locations, and how it would affect being able to have a train to travel at that rate of speed with the with the changing in how we have upheavals and everything else. So that I think would have to be studied before I can make a solid decision. If there was a way to ensure that we could have that type of transit system with the train system at that speed, I think it would be tremendously beneficial to the interior of Alaska by having a transit system such as that.
Well, I see it as a way of using that natural gas to build infrastructure that will last way beyond the natural gas.
Well, yeah,
a rail system.
When you're talking natural gas, coal, petrol-type fuels, those are limited resources,
right?
And they're only going to be used until they're gone. So whenever a system like that, such as a rail system of that nature, is going to be built, it can't be built solely on the belief that it's going to be funded by natural gas or whatever. So I mean, it needs to be constructed for the sole purpose of being a long-lasting service to the community. I do believe that when you're looking at it in that aspect, that we should be using some of that funding and some of the profits that are being made from that to the research of coming up with different types of fuel energies. What can we do here locally at the borough level? The most we can do here is to help ensure that the funding of UAF up there and their research in reference to additional types of energies, is at a sufficient level. But this is something that's going to have to be done at a much, much larger level in the borough to really come up with any type of significant change that we would require in the future for a different type of fuel system.
Great. I guess you've given this a lot of thought.
Yeah. I hope so.
Well,
that's what we're all built on. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. And YouTube thanks you.